Greetings, love and peace. Today we'll be going over the Weekly Caucasian 1875, Albert Pike's translation of the pre-Christian Adam and Eve story. Some time ago I asked one of Pike's friends if he had found anything to beat Moses' account of the creation of man. Yes, said this friend. The story in the Sanscrit from which Moses, when he was in Egypt, undoubtedly picked up his accounts of Genesis is to this effect. The Sanskrit's account of Eve. God made a man and woman and put them on an island in sight of the shore of another land. God said to the man, "There is everything on the island necessary for you. It is made for you that I may enjoy your happiness. Nothing is a restraint to you except this. You must not go off the island. Nothing but a willful spirit can take you off, for I tell you, here is all." God said to the woman, "I have no commands for you except to love and obey this man." The couple got along very well until one day the man, whose name in the Sanskrit resembles the Hebrew Adam, said to the woman, "I shall go over to yonder shore. I hear the music of strange birds over there. The flowers are brighter than these. This place is played out." He took the woman on his back, and jumping from stone to stone, he crossed the water and reached the tempting shore. Instantly a bolt of lightning and convulsion scorched up everything around. The Lord appeared before the disobedient couple with considerable sternness. He cursed the man instantly. Then turning to the woman, the Creator said, "And what made you leave the island? What have you to say that I may not curse you too?" The woman replied with the presence of mind that distinguishes her sex, "There is the man you told me to obey, and bad as he is, wherever he goes, I will go. He shall go wherever he pleases, if he takes me along." The woman was forthwith blessed and not cursed. As Moses related, she was allowed to have posterity and to be blessed in the love of children. I asked, who was an old Californian, if Pike entertained any hard feelings towards Moses. "No," he said, "Pike thinks Moses was a good deal of a man." Now, God, quote unquote, gave Adam a jurisdiction. But if you notice here, the woman's labor pains was not increased here. She was blessed to have children. Also, there is no entity or invisible entity that you can pawn off your wrongdoings to, as far as a devil or a serpent. Everything that you do, you must be accounted for. Good and evil is within. God and the so-called devil is within, your higher and lower self. And as far as the mother coming from man, we all have a belly button. So you show me any man without a belly button, and then I will admit that man was created first. But it shows here, the child is only as perfect as the mother, so we are not born in sin. And that's when you get into Cain and Abel, and they try to say that the children that are born of certain bloodlines are cursed. That is not true, because the child is as perfect as the mother, and the son comes from the mother. And that's where you get the word Mason, Ma's son, mother's son. You're born in the form of law. Length, angle, and width within your mother's womb, and you must enforce her law. The mother gives the law, and the son enforces. The crescent and star, mother and son. Now, this last part about Moses, I would like to get into Moses, the Yod, St. John, Mount Sinai. But first I want to play an excerpt from the Scottish Rite where they are quoting Albert Pike and speaking about St. John. And we're going to get into Eliphas Levi, which was Albert Pike's master teacher, where he speaks of St. John attempting to teach the Moors Christianity, which we know the Moors are the ones who brought everyone out of darkness into marvelous light with the Renaissance, with knowledge, architecture, mathematics. We went over all of that. And who the Grand Orient of France gets all their mysticism from, the Egyptian mystery system.
Then John the Evangelist looks forward to the start of a new tradition, for the Gospel of John attributed to him frames the narrative of the life of Jesus in Hellenistic terms, offering the "what is logos" question of Greek philosophy with an answer from Judeo-Christian tradition. Logos, an ambiguous philosophical term that could be translated as word, reason, law, and wisdom, among other definitions, is given new resonance as the Gospel of John begins with an echo from Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. "In the beginning was the Word, logos, in the original Greek, and the Word, logos, was with God, and the Word, logos, was God." In this new definition, logos now becomes identified with the Judeo-Christian notion of God, theos, And the Gospel of John then begins its presentation of the life of Jesus that will have profound future impact on the religious sensibilities and culture of the Mediterranean and, indeed, the world. John the Evangelist becomes, in some sense, the personification of the lessons of the level, that time moves forward into new paths and novel ways of thinking, and whatever action is taken now will impact the future, and there is no going back to erase a single action. We thus see that the point in the circle, surrounded by the two Saints John, symbolizes our own lives. Saint John the Baptist represents the wisdom of the past, and Saint John the Evangelist points to a new cultural and philosophical blend of Mediterranean belief systems culminating in the new creed of Christianity that will spread quickly with profound impact for the world.
I would like to go over what was spoken about as far as the logos, the point in the center of a circle. In the beginning, they was using the word logos, but they was hiding the word yod. This is from Morals and Dogma, directly from my personal copy from 1871. In this ether are two lights. That is the light of substance, which was taken away, and that of the garment. There is a vast difference between the two, for that of the vestige of the garment is relatively to that of the vestige of the substance, like a point in the center of a circle. I repeat, like a point in the center of a circle. And as the only appropriate name for the light of the vestige, or light, which in Arabic it is nur, which is more. Therefore, the light of the vestige of the garment could not be called by that name. And so we term it a point that is yod. Y-O-D, keep that in mind because we're speaking of God, which is that point in the center of light. And this light, a point in the center of the great light, is called or, ether, or space. Now within the Morals and Dogma, I would like to show you where Albert Pike speaks of the yod on the compass and square being replaced with the G, which oddly enough in the English alphabet, G is the 7, which is the same shape as the yod because yod was changed to God. In the Morals and Dogma, generation is the meaning of the letter G or yod in triangle. Yod impregnates the letter he and begets a son. Now who do they say Jesus is? The only begotten son of who? Of God, but it's yod impregnates the letter he and begets a son. But we know that our Creator does not do a lower form as beget, because beget means to do a lower form function. The principle called father, the male or generative principle, is comprehended as yod, which itself flows downward from the energy of the absolute Holy One, which is the word, the truth that spread through the prophets who are the thought of Allah or thought of your Creator or thought of God manifested in flesh, which is a prophet. Yod is the beginning and the end of all things that are. That stream that flows forth is the universe of things. However, time never was when man was not. For if there was a time when man began, there would be a time when man would end. But we are one in unity with our Creator, Allah. That's what lets me know right there that Pike was on the right path, but he wasn't in full unfolding of information or full unfolding of this gnosis. Unless he was only speaking about the carnal view of things, such as falsehood shall pass away, but truth does not change nor pass away. But adepts are born, not made, and we are who our forefathers and foremothers were today without doubt or contradiction. So our bloodline unfolds and we take in our gnosis. Yod is the beginning and the end. So how they're sitting there speaking about in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, when it was yod. But this yod is the shape in the Egyptian mystery systems from the Moors, the quill or the pen or the beak, which is Tahuti, who they call in Greek Hermes, who has the pen, who gives the portion of law to humanity. That finger that the Jews have a stick with a finger on the end of it that they don't touch the Torah because they say that their portion of law was written by the finger of God, but it's really Tahuti. That's who Moses met up on Mount Sinai. In Masonry, it's called the Hermit on the Snowy Peak, and he's standing on the top of a mountain with his arm reached straight out with a light at the end like a lantern because he gave the light, and it's in the shape of a 7. He's standing straight up with his arm out because it's the shape of a 7. The hermit Hermes, either they're hiding it or they're doing a filter trying to find out who the adepts are and who's going to try to seek and find. Seek and you shall find, and that's heaven. Yod is the beginning and the end of all things that are, and that's the beginning of the Christian Bible. The stream that flows forth is the universe of things, which always becomes, having no creation. And this becoming world is created by Yod. And this is what it is. Now, I don't know if they don't have this information or if they're hiding it, you know. I'm gonna give them the benefit of not knowing. The triangle, says the ritual, represents one God in three persons, and the great Yod is the initial letter of the last word. Now, in Hebrew, no word, no sentence can start without that Yod. Now, I would like to reference where Pike speaks about the Yod being replaced with the G on the compass and square, which changed Yod to God. But Yehoshua, whom they called Jesus, stated not one Yod or tittle is to be changed in the law, and they changed that Yod. They say jot, but it's not one Yod or tittle shall be changed of the law, and they changed that Yod. In the east of the lodge over the master, enclosed in a triangle, is the Hebrew letter Yod. In the English and American lodges, the letter G is substituted for this as the initial of the word God. Yod is in the Kabbalah, the symbol of unity of the supreme deity, the first letter of the holy name, and also a symbol of the great Kabbalistic triads. To understand its mystic meanings, you must go and open the pages of the Sohar and Sifra. And then we go on and on and on. Now, there was custodians of this gnosis spread throughout all of the world, but each of them had separate parts of it. And then there would be a time when all of it would come together and unfold so that it could be understood. Now, this is morals and dogma. Eve's ternary name added to Yod gives Jehovah divine tetragram, which Yod is where Yahweh comes from. Now, again, we're speaking of Eve. Eve's ternary nature added to Yod gives Jehovah divine tetragram. So are they not telling you, or is it that they don't know? Are they in a dogmatic state as far as God and magical angels with wings, when angels is a thought of our Creator manifested in flesh, which Jesus said, Elah, Elah, which is Allah in Hebrew, like shalom is salam, peace. But magical angels with wings, when those are prophets, a prophet is a thought of Allah manifested in human flesh. So they want to get mystical before they tell you where they actually got the information from. As far as, again, Tahuti being up on that Mount Sinai and writing with his finger or his quill the 10 Commandments, which in these days the Christians use for the rich to rule over the poor. Now, either they don't know or they know, but either way, they are abandoning their duty to give the truth, which, in Albert Pike's words, when something is abandoned, maintenance, which is what I'm doing right now with the truth that they're not telling, maintenance of something that is abandoned is clear proof for title of ownership or for custodianship. And that's what I'm doing. Now, before we close out, I would like to go over this reading. We've already went over the demonstration of Leo Taxil, who admitted to making up all these different lies about Albert Pike and Lucifer, etc. However, underneath the thousands of layers of falsehood, you will find truth, because truth and falsehood are strangely mixed, and falsehood always clings to truth. Dr. Patel reports the most incredible and amazing things about the quote-unquote Satan Pope, Albert Pike. He has 20,000 pens in the drawer of his desk, one of which was paid for after his death with 500 notes because he had used it to write to reply to the bull, Unanum Genius. According to Batel's description, hell and the Satan Pope are decidedly more progressive than the German center, for Pike is connected to all the directories of the Palladian cult by a wireless quote-unquote satanic telephone. And And this is being spoke of in 1920s, speaking about a wireless telephone. And it reached Charleston, Rome, Berlin, Washington, Montevideo, Naples, and Calcutta, India. It was 7 of them. Remember 7, the yod? The quote-unquote satanic telephone called Arcula Mystica. Again, Arcula Mystica. And when you go look, you'll find the 7 cardinals, etc. Consist of a box with 7 yod statuettes, which correspond to the 7 directories. If one of those statuettes is pressed down by the quote-unquote devil pope, the corresponding statute of the called directorate lets out a devilish whistle and thus alerts the director in question to the conversation. The individual quote-unquote satanic telephones are not connected with wires. And again, this is 1920s. They're talking about wireless devices at all. He has a whole host of small, long-tailed postal devils at his disposal, which transport the letters with incredible speed in order to be able to have personal contact with the God be with us at will. The quote-unquote Satan Pope has a magic bracelet with which he can quote-unquote Lucifer, which means connecting Venus to whoever be on Venus, maybe, at any time. On the occasion of such a devil quote, Pike took Satan on a little pleasure trip to Sirius. In a few seconds, a distance of 52,174,000 million miles was covered without Pike feeling any discomfort. I leave you in love and peace. Divine honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish divine and national movement of the world. Peace, peace, peace. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Islam, Islam, Islam. Salam, salam, salam.